As we all know, Russia attacked Ukraine almost 2.5 years ago, but now Ukraine strikes back and destroys Russian tanks. Ukraine destroyed millions of dollars worth of Russian tanks with their $1,000 drones. But on the other hand, another war might be on the way. On June 17, 2024, the Philippine Navy encountered its most violent clash with the Chinese Coast Guard in over a decade. This happened about 105 nautical miles west of the Philippines, near the Second Thomas Shoal, a submerged reef in the Spratly Islands of the South China Sea. This confrontation is part of China's series of aggressive actions. For instance, in April 2024, Chinese Coast Guard vessels blasted Philippine boats with water cannons near Scarborough Shoal, and in March 2024, a Philippine ship was damaged, and 4 crewmen were injured during a mission to deliver supplies to a grounded warship on the hotly contested Second Thomas Shoal. As tensions in the South China Sea escalate, the focus shifts increasingly to the Philippines' defense capabilities. China's navy dominates the region with over 700 ships, including 2 aircraft carriers, 61 submarines, and 49 destroyers. In stark contrast, the Philippine Navy has around 111 vessels, with no aircraft carriers or submarines, and only 2 frigates. This stark difference explains why Manila is urgently seeking to modernize its forces and build strategic alliances with like-minded countries, one of these being India. The Philippines has received the BrahMos missiles. The first batch of the Indian BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles was delivered to the Philippines on April 19, 2024. This is part of a $375 million deal with Manila, in which New Delhi will provide 3 missile batteries to the Philippines. But why is India, traditionally seen as a neutral player, actively arming a nation embroiled in a territorial dispute with China? In today's video, we'll discuss why India changed its view on the South China Sea. The South China Sea is a 1.4 million square mile body of water, central to the Indo-Pacific region. Besides being a busy fishing area that provides about 10% of the world's catch, about 1/3 of all global trade passes through the sea, making many countries economically dependent on the region. In 2016, that trade amounted to some $3 trillion, including more than 30% of the global maritime crude oil trade. Critically, it's also incredibly rich in natural resources, with 11 billion barrels of oil and some 190 trillion cubic feet of gas deposits, something that each of these countries would love to get their hands on in the coming years. Right now, much of this sea is disputed. Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, the Philippines, and Taiwan all lay claim to some part of it, but China claims historic rights to about 80 to 90% of the South China Sea, based on a 1936 map that illustrates dashes called the 9-dash line, cutting through the exclusive economic zone of 5 other countries. This has led to rising tensions among these nations, but things have become especially dangerous between China and the Philippines. The dispute mostly centers around the Second Thomas Shoal, a submerged reef about 200 kilometers from Palawan, but more than 1,000 kilometers from China's Hainan Island. Since 1999, Philippine Marines have occupied the shoal by grounding a World War II-era ship to assert their claim. These soldiers have to be resupplied every month or so, and these resupply missions are being blocked by Chinese ships used aggressive tactics like water cannons, lasers, and melee weapons. Recent confrontations included the Chinese Coast Guard ramming a Filipino boat and brandishing makeshift spears, resulting in a Filipino soldier losing a finger. As the situation grows more tense, the Philippines' longest-standing military ally, the United States, has promised to honor the Mutual Defense Treaty signed in 1951. This pact requires both nations to support each other if another party attacks either of them. Any attack on Philippine aircraft, vessels, or armed forces in the South China Sea would invoke our Mutual Defense Treaty. Yet, the Philippines does not want to depend on the United States alone for its defense, and has significantly enhanced its strategic partnerships with multiple countries through defense purchases and joint military exercises. India's supply of BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles is of particular interest. The deal, worth $375 million, marks a key strategic shift in the region, because India, which has traditionally been a neutral player, now seems to be firmly wading into the South China Sea disputes. Both India and the Philippines have long-standing territorial disputes with China, which can now expect to see the BrahMos missile systems on its disputed borders with India in the Himalayas and the South China Sea with the Philippines. The BrahMos missiles, jointly developed by India and Russia, have a range of up to 900 kilometers and a top speed of Mach 2. It is one of the most advanced supersonic cruise missiles in the world, capable of being launched from land, sea, and air platforms, making it a versatile weapon for modern warfare. The current versions of BrahMos have a range of about 500 kilometers, but the shore-based variant of the anti-ship cruise missile, supplied to the Philippines, has a range of 290 kilometers to comply with the Missile Technology Control Regime, which places curbs on exports of weapons with a range greater than 300 kilometers. Satellite imagery from Maxar Technologies reveals that some of these units are likely to be deployed at a location that appears to be an under-construction missile base on the coast of western Luzon, facing the South China Sea. The site sports similar buildings to what is seen in an image of a BrahMos site, operated by the Indian Armed Forces. It hosts a high bay facility that supports the maintenance and testing of the system and a sheltered magazine bunker to store the missiles. Compared to Indian bases, the Philippines installation appears smaller, likely due to the reduced capacity of the BrahMos systems that Manila purchased, which only have 2 missiles per launcher, compared to the 3 found on Indian launchers. The new base allows the missiles to strike targets 290 kilometers away, including the disputed Scarborough Shoal, which is roughly 250 kilometers from there. Yet despite the excitement and optimism, it's unlikely that the BrahMos will dramatically shift the balance of power in the South China Sea, thanks to China's recent deployment of cutting-edge missile defense systems on both land and sea, creating a formidable shield against such threats. However, this landmark deal is likely just the beginning of India's gradual, yet steady rise as a key defense supplier to countries in the global south. This is evident from the fact that countries like Vietnam and Indonesia have also shown interest in acquiring these missiles. Both Vietnam and Indonesia have shown interest in this extremely versatile supersonic cruise missile. For nearly 3 decades, from 1993 to 2022, India has held the title of the world's largest arms importer. Recent data from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute reveals that the country accounted for 99.8% of global arms imports between 2019 and 2023. But now, things are starting to change. India has been strengthening its defense industrial base for both domestic consumption and exports. India's defense exports surged from $185 million in 2016 to $2.6 billion in 2023, exporting to over 85 countries. India aims to reach $5 billion in defense exports by 2025, with a big chunk expected from the global south. India's motivations are not just limited to defense exports, but also its long-standing territorial disputes, coupled with China's increasing presence in the Indian Ocean. China's so-called string of pearls strategy is of particular concern for India. This strategy is a geopolitical network of military and commercial presence in strategic locations like Djibouti, Pakistan's Gwadar and Karachi ports, Sri Lanka's Hambantota, and Myanmar's Yangon port. In response, New Delhi has coined its own necklace of diamonds strategy by building partnerships with countries like Singapore, Indonesia, Japan, Mongolia, Iran, Oman, and Mauritius. Given this backdrop, India's decision to support the Philippines makes strategic sense. By doing so, India is not only countering Chinese aggression, but also strengthening ties with Southeast Asian nations. This cooperation helps India build a coalition of like-minded countries to maintain a free and open Indo-Pacific. In the past, India's defense ties were mainly with big powers like Russia and the United States. But now, by working with Southeast Asian countries, India is widening its reach and creating new chances for its defense industry. Still, it's unclear if India can take a share of the global defense market. What do you think? Can India, which has always bought weapons from others, become a country that sells them? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.